The war crimes trials lasted 3 months. High Arbiter Crystallis sat in the center of a courtroom built specifically for this purpose. His once proud form diminished under the weight of humanity's judgment. Representatives from 100 species watched the proceedings. Some had been Imperium subjects for millions of years. Some had lost their own worlds to Volanthi conquest. All of them watched in amazement as the galaxy's oldest empire answered for its crimes. Tommy Liu was 12 years old when he took his seat in the gallery. Admiral Holloway sat beside him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. They watched together as the recordings from New Shanghai played on massive screens, as witnesses described the horror of that day, as the faces of the 1.2 billion dead scrolled past in an endless stream of names and photographs. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty. Guilty of genocide. Guilty of crimes against sentient beings. Guilty of atrocities beyond measure. Crystallis was not executed. Humanity had debated that question for months. In the end, they chose something different. He was sentenced to witness, to spend the rest of his ancient life watching the species he had tried to crush build something better than he ever had. "Is it over?" Tommy asked quietly as the guards led Crystallis away. Holloway considered the question carefully. "The war is over. The Imperium is finished. But no, Tommy, it is not truly over. Now comes the harder part." The harder part was building peace. Captain Nathan Price led the Liberation Fleet. He traveled from system to system, freeing species that had been enslaved for longer than humanity had existed. Some of them had forgotten what freedom meant. Some had never known it at all. He taught them that the galaxy no longer belonged to masters and servants, but to equals. "We did not come to conquer," he told each world he visited. "We came to offer a choice. Join us as partners or go your own way. But know that you will never be slaves again." Most chose to join. They had seen what humanity could do when pushed. They had also seen something else, something unexpected. They had seen humans help the wounded, rebuild the broken, offer mercy to enemies who had offered none. They had seen strength and compassion walking hand in hand. Dr. Elena Vasquez created the protocols for this new era. She had spent her life dreaming of meeting alien species. Now she was responsible for building relationships with thousands of them. It was the greatest challenge of her career, and she approached it with endless patience and genuine love for every strange and wonderful culture she encountered. "We are not the Imperium," she said at the founding conference of the new Galactic Compact. "We will never demand tribute. We will never take your freedom. We will never stand by while innocents suffer." That is the promise of humanity. That is the lesson we learned from our darkest hour. Director Samuel Kane became the first speaker of the Compact. He was old now, worn down by years of war and diplomacy. But his voice was still steady, as he welcomed each new member species, as he worked tirelessly to create a galaxy where what happened to New Shanghai could never happen again. Dr. Victor Okonkwo dismantled his weapons. The Fury drives were converted to peaceful purposes, opening trade routes that had never been possible before. The warships were decommissioned, their metal melted down and reformed into construction equipment. Victor returned to his original dream of clean energy, and within 5 years, he had developed power sources that would sustain civilizations for millennia. "We built the sword because we had to," he said at the dedication of the new Shanghai Memorial. "Now we can build the plow. Now we can create instead of destroy." Rosa Martinez struggled with peace. She had spent so long preparing for war that she no longer knew how to live without it. For a time she wandered, lost and purposeless. Then Admiral Holloway found her a new mission. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force needed trainers, warriors who could teach others to defend themselves without becoming monsters. Rosa threw herself into the work. She trained soldiers from 100 species, teaching them human tactics, human resilience, human refusal to surrender. But she also taught them something else. Power is not the goal, she told each class. Justice is. Remember why you fight. Remember who you protect. And never ever become what you fought against. The memorial station was completed on the 10th anniversary of the massacre. It hung in Earth's orbit, exactly where New Shanghai had once stood. A perfect replica of the destroyed station, empty except for 1.2 billion lights. One light for every life lost. One light burning forever against the darkness. Ships came from across the galaxy to pay respects. Former enemies, new allies, species who had never known humanity but had heard the story of what happened here. They brought flowers from 1,000 worlds, music from 1,000 cultures, grief and gratitude in equal measure. Dr. Claire Donovan stood on the observation deck and watched them come. She had survived the massacre. Barely. Imperium salvage drones had pulled her from the wreckage, kept her alive as a specimen, a curiosity. When human forces liberated the Volanthi prison camps, they found her still breathing, still healing others, even in captivity. She was old now, her body marked by scars that would never fully heal. But she was alive. The 17 people she had saved before the hospital collapsed had become families, their descendants numbering in the hundreds. Life continued. Hope persisted. Tommy Lou found her there, this young man who had once been a terrified child in an escape pod. He was 22 now, the same age Kevin Tran had been when he gave his life destroying the shield generator. Tommy had become a diplomat, working with species across the compact to build bridges where there had been walls. "Do you ever think about that day?" he asked her. Claire nodded slowly. "Every day, every single day." "Does it get easier?" "No, it never gets easier. But it gets different. The pain becomes part of you, and you learn to carry it without being crushed." She turned to look at him, this boy who had lost everything and become a builder of peace. "Your grandmother would be proud of you." Tommy's eyes glistened. "I hope so. I try to remember what she taught me, to pay attention, to think ahead, to be brave. You are all of those things." They stood together in silence, watching the lights of the memorial burn against the stars. Behind them, the sounds of the anniversary ceremony drifted across the deck. Music and speeches, tears and laughter, a galaxy coming together to remember and to hope. Admiral Patricia Holloway found them there. She was ancient now, sustained by technology that would have seemed like magic a century ago. She would not live much longer, but she had lived long enough to see her promises kept. "It is a good day," she said quietly. Tommy took her hand and squeezed it gently. "It is." Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that had turned its greatest tragedy into the foundation for a better future. A species that had shown the universe what it meant to remember, to endure, and when pushed, to strike back. The lights of the memorial burned on, 1.2 billion souls remembered forever, and across the galaxy the message echoed clear and eternal. Earth remembers, Earth endures, and Earth will never forget.